to that. Thanks very much, Claudia. Joining us now is Gianluca Galletto. He's the president of Double G Consulting, and still with us, our guest host this hour, James Altucher, managing director at Formula Capital. Welcome. Thanks for getting up so early. Gianluca, let's start with you. Your feeling is, they're voting on these austerity measures. Everyone talks about austerity here as well, but your feeling is they should be talking about stimulus.
That's exactly right. And one of the biggest problem, especially in Italy, not just more than the rest of Europe, has been the lack of growth. And implementing austerity plan after austerity plan might just kill the patient, because what you do, you risk starting a spiral in which your debt is high and debt to GDP is high. So then by the austerity measures, your GDP goes down and your debt level seems to go up and yields go up, and then you have to start over again.
How do you institute stimulus, though, when your yields are, even after a retreat above 6.5%, you're in so much debt and everyone is eyeing you?
They're still, they're high, but they're still manageable. You have to understand also that the level of the average cost of funding for Italy now is lower than that, and because that's, of course, it's going to impact the new issuance. And maturity is pretty long, also compared to other countries in Europe. It's about 7 years. And so the problem would be really because next year you have about 300 billion coming due. But what is needed in Italy is reforms that might help the stimulus, and especially the problem will be in the short run if you just cut expenses, especially in a kind of a linear way. That's what's been happening. I'm not sure if that's the right solution. So far they've been talking mainly about cutting expenses, so it's the opposite of a stimulus. And you need more reforms than microeconomic reforms. And Monti is probably the person that might be able to implement those, which has been very difficult to do because of a lot of special interests. Every time you try to tackle that, there's somebody stopping.
James, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Gianluca, I'm curious what you think of the fact that in Italy, as opposed to, let's say, Greece, domestic savings is actually up and increasing. So individuals are actually holding on to their cash and keeping it in the bank. How do you get, forgetting about government austerity or stimulus, how do you get the people to actually start spending money there? Because they have it.
Well, there's a crisis of confidence, definitely. Also, not only from the financial markets, but also the Italian people, and it's been going on for some time. It's like
is it Berlusconi related? Like, do you think with Berlusconi out and a technocrat in, Italians will say, okay, time to party again, or what will they do?
No, it's partially definitely linked to Berlusconi and what happened in the last 2 years. He lost a lot of credibility, and so the fact that the government has been very ineffective. But that's a problem that's just a little bit more structural in the Italian society. In fact, I was reading an interesting piece by Daniel Gross from the Center for European Policy in Brussels, and it was saying that if you look at Italy in the last 10 years, look at the usual suspects, determinants of growth, like investment in capital and R&D and human capital, all being kind of doing very well compared also to Germany. And what was lacking is like governance is being really poor. So the rule of law, for example, and the level of transparency and corruption in some form, or like the fact of the informal economy.
So you think a bureaucrat like Mario Monti could inspire more confidence on that front?
It could, but I'm not sure that's enough, because what's happening though is that, first of all, we have to see if Mario Monti is going to be prime minister. Because the president can pick him, but then he has to go to the parliament and get a majority. And it's not completely, still, it's not 100% sure that's going to happen. And Berlusconi's throwing a wild card already. He's suggesting Dini. I mean, that's not official yet, but that's been the talk in Rome this morning. Dini used to be prime minister for a couple of years, also another technocrat who's a senator now, comes from the Bank of Italy.
Right.
So maybe I just step aside and I'm back.
This is not a simple solution. We're going to have to leave it there. We're out of time. Giancarlo, thanks so much for joining us this morning. James will stay with us for the rest of the hour. Gianluca Galletti, president of Double G Consulting. Still to